Hello, what's going on everyone? Vega here for Serpent X Tech, and in this video I wanted to go over the valve cover gasket on a 2017 Dodge Journey. If you're a short person, I'm not a short person, I'm about 6 foot. If you're a short person, go ahead and grab a stool. You're going to need a small flat head for the connectors that connect to the coilovers, or excuse me, not coilovers, but the coil plugs, and a couple pry tools or needle nose, but these will be better. You're going to want to disconnect your PCV valve. Be careful, right? So this connects to this PCV valve. When you pull out, this connects underneath your intake manifold. If you break that little plastic piece, because Dodge decided to use a lot of plastic on here, it's going to mess you up. But you're going to pull that and you're just going to twist upwards. Don't pull back, just twist upwards so it's out of your way. We're going to have to disconnect each of the spark plug coils. There's these little connectors, plastic clips right here, that literally sit on those screws, right? And it can be a bit annoying, which is why these type of tools come in handy. Anybody wants to tell me the name of that, but there's a couple more gray ones like this that sit on that screw. You want to get all of that off. Any other connectors that are in your way. You don't need to disconnect the fuel rail. I did take off the little blue clip right here, but it's not really necessary. Moved over here for some reason. You can get to it, and then we just got to get to the fasteners. So they're 8mm, one there, two right here, three back there, and 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. You don't need to disconnect your injectors or anything like that, but just disconnect any hoses. There's one more hose that goes from the intake to the valve cover. You want to, again, I use this tool and kind of wiggled it left and right, and not pulling straight back because you'll break hoses that way, but wiggle it left and right and then pull it back to get it out of my way. Now we gotta just disconnect these coil packs, all right? And then they have a different type. This looks like a T30, and I'll confirm that, but that looks like a T30 bolt that's holding it in. But you want to disconnect the connectors, and so you're going to push these little red guys, which break often, back as far as you can, and then you're going to pinch and then pull out. That's why this tool comes in handy, right? Because that allows you to get underneath the connector. In this instance, it's not really good because guess what? There's not a lot of room to do that. So just push those red connectors back as far as you can, and then you're gonna want to pull those connectors off of the coil pack, and then continue loosening on. And these things don't require a lot of torque. I would urge you to be very careful. What I mean by that is just the factory tightness. I always like to find out what it is. So what I do is I go to the on position on my wrench and I twist and I feel it with my hand, right? Yeah, you should have a proper torque wrench, and I do have proper torque wrench, inch pounds, foot pounds, newton meters, all that, but I like to feel it with my hands. And this valve cover is plastic. So what I do is I feel what it is, and again, I'm not grabbing from back here where I have the most leverage and power. I'm grabbing from up here, all right? Because valve covers, you shouldn't need that much. And I felt it, and it's very, very loose. So I loosened every one of them by hand, right? And now I got a little, not a big power tool. Like, this thing doesn't have a lot of torque, but I got this guy here. I'm gonna loosen all the bolts up and then use a pry bar in a good section, which I still need to find, to try to lift up on that, try to lift the valve cover off. You can see how much oil is leaking out, especially on the back side here, right? And all that oil is going onto your components and your exhaust, which obviously is not good. So doing a valve cover gasket will help out the missus in her car. But this is where we're at right now. It's not a hard job, and if you're short, grab an extra tool. If you're afraid of getting dirty, grab some gloves, but try to do it yourself. Save some money. Because if you go to a technician, a tire place, or whatever your local repair shop, they're going to charge you, they're going to overcharge you for something like this. Just be careful, take your time. Let's find out what these guys are right here. I think they're T30. Yep, sure enough. So T30, and it goes in just like so. And we'll take those off after we disconnect the connectors. Let me continue on, and we'll take a look. We're gonna need to clean out the mating surface underneath the valve cover once we get it off. Make sure it's crystal clean as best we can. Even got some Permatex to add to this section and this section on the engine block before we put the new valve cover gasket on. I completely forgot there's more valve cover bolts in the center. So another 1, 2, 3, 4 more. Obviously when you take the coil packs off, you'll get more visibility on it. Good thing is we're not leaking. Like, I don't see a lot of oil on here. Yeah, there's some residue, but if this was filled with oil, like it was dripping oil at the end, then that means, you know, oil should be in the spark plug holes, which I don't see any. We'll take a look at the spark plugs to check the health. This is not necessary for the teardown video or for information for you, but I like to check the spark plug, see how it's burning, make sure everything is good. For the coil pack wires, just try to tuck that out of your way as best you can. And now we need to pry after we take those 4 off. And these are captive bolts, by the way. So like, you'll keep spinning them thinking they'll come out, and they won't. They stay stuck in the valve cover. But we need to get those other 4 out and pry. Find a spot here, maybe like right here where my finger is, to pry the valve cover up, and then maybe another one back there, and try to lift it up and out without letting the wires get in your way, which can be a pain, especially on this right side, because it's like very tight over here, especially with that fuel line, which some people can disconnect it. I'm just not going for it. So yeah, let me see, get those 4 here in the middle and continue on. All right, the valve cover is off. Take note of where the manufacturer puts Permatex. They got a lot on this side, about to fall into the chain. I don't like that. But in this spot right here, they put some Permatex. And right there, basically the timing chain, parallel to the timing chain. You can see all your cams and everything. But we got to clean this mating surface. All this needs to be cleaned off. We want to make sure it's as fresh as possible for the gasket to make a nice clean touch. You are going to be burning some oil. Your engine is going to be smoking because this engine is slanted towards the back. Some of that oil just leaked even more onto the exhaust, but it will burn off and it'll be fine as long as we're not leaking it anymore. So here's the valve cover. The gasket probably still had a few years in it, but I just didn't like where it was leaking onto the exhaust. Matter of fact, if we put that back on, it looks like it was this section over here. And you see how there's oil on this, but not right here? That tells me this was dying off or not sealing as much as it should be. Because as we follow it along, you see oil in certain spots, but not in that one spot. So like right there as well. So it was right here, kind of following this, where this engine mount is, and that rear, and that's your cam shaft sensor. Your crank sensor is way down there, which do go bad, but it was leaking right here. You could see how it's just following down with that mount and then falling onto the exhaust. So right around that spot that I was just mentioning. But yeah, so we're gonna peel this up off the valve cover. Don't forget this gasket right here that runs in between. We got both of them. And we're gonna do our best to clean everything up, make sure it's good. This is still rubbery. It's not super brittle, but it was just time to replace it anyways. I could feel how hard this is. Just still has a little bit of rubber texture, just wasn't ready to continue on with the rest of its life. So we need to swap that out with some Rock Auto. The one I got was the Ultra Power VS5069R698R, and yeah, has everything we need. So let's get the valve cover old gasket off, clean up the mating surface, put the new gasket on, and job done. As long as we bolt and put everything back on. Well, that was a pain in the butt. So these bolts or screws are basically captive until you take the gasket out. As you can see, when I took the gasket out, some of the bolts started falling. Take note, pay attention to where you have them, so on and so forth. But yeah, this gasket just basically came apart in pieces. It was very annoying. Had to use needle nose to try to grab in certain areas to try to pry and lift up. But you can see how the bolt sits in those holes. So once you put the new gasket in, those bolts will be held in by the new gasket. So you should be good there. So yeah, just super annoying. I let this go too long, got super brittle. It was gummy brittle, so it was enough gumminess to annoy me and get stuck that it will rip apart, and I have to use the pliers or the needle nose to try to pry it out. And then brittle enough that it just broke every other hole, especially on the spark plug one. So alright, let's get this new one installed on the valve cover. Just to show you how it's done as far as putting these in here. So you put them in the hole, it's going to lift the gasket up, and then you're going to press down around it. And then that's going to hold. The gasket is going to hold your bolts. So we got all of them in there, and they're right correct spots. Because this valve cover is plastic, please be careful the type of chemicals you use to clean it off. I know you want to make it look pretty. You oftentimes can wind up breaking your plastics. Certain chemicals will literally cause your plastics to crack, so be careful. Now, I just want to go around, make sure the valve cover gasket, there's nothing, my dirty hands put on there. Wipe it off, and then you could take a little bit of oil and run it along the seam. Here and here is where we're going to put the Permatex. So maybe not right there, but we're going to want to add a little bit of lube around the gasket when we go to mate it back on to the engine. Now, I won't be able to record while doing it, but it's going to be a pain in the butt. So I'm going to come in from this side. So here's the right side of the valve cover. I'm going to come in from this side, having to push these wires out my way and try to get it set back into place. So it's going to be a little bit challenging, but there is a way to do it this way, saving you time, money, and avoiding any further frustration. Try not to break any of the connectors, but we want to carefully push it back away and try to get the valve cover over those cams and to set on its spot on the engine. But you can see everything's cleaned up on the mating surface. Good to go. We need to clean the oil back there, which I will do right now. Put some Permatex here, and just a little dab, not much, just a little dab on the finger, and just literally bloop, and that's it, guys. So let me get the valve cover back on. All right, and here she is, back together and running again. When I put the bolts back on, I started from the middle, right, and worked my way out in different patterns, kind of like a crosshatch pattern, like when you work on your computer or tighten your lug bolts on your car, right? That back corner, this corner, that corner, that corner, this corner, that corner, and you just go back and forth because you want to evenly tighten it. Don't over torque these things. I don't know the foot pounds. If I look it up when I'm editing, I'll put it in the screen, but it just, when I told you that I was testing it with my hand is a pretty good torque wrench. It may not be the best, it may not be like scientifically accurate, but I knew exactly where to torque it. If you do the method that I did instead of using a torque wrench, just be careful. If you're used to it, you'll be fine. But just making sure that there's nothing leaking in the back. Got the car running besides my sweat all over the damn car. Just making sure there's nothing leaking. Gonna keep an eye on it, see how it does. With heat expansion, everything should seal up. You can see I went a little bit overboard with the gasket. You can see some of the gray right there, the Permatex. A little bit overboard, you didn't need to go that far. Let's check the back. Yeah, a little bit overboard, but it's all right. As long as it's not going into the timing chain, you're fine. So gonna use the OBD2 tool to just keep an eye on things, make sure I didn't leave any connectors, disconnect or anything like that. Seems to be running good. All four are firing off. Make sure you connect your hose to your air box. Make sure you connect your hose to your PCV valve. And that's pretty much it. This valve cover change took more time because I had to stop and record. But honestly, maybe if you're unexperienced, an hour. If you're experienced, 30 minutes to 45. So yeah, newbie, maybe an hour, hour and a half. And again, you're gonna need a stool or something unless you lower the car, which I don't know why you would. But yeah, fan's kicking on. Oh no, that's a plane going ahead. No, the fan kicked on. Okay, cool. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Just wanted to share this with you. Hopefully it helped you out. There are some guides out there, but a lot of them are on the V6s and don't give you like a close-up detail of what's going on. Just a quick recap, right? You got your PCV valve hose that you need to pull out. When you pull out, don't yank it straight back. Yank on it and twist upwards because the hose runs in by the intake. You don't want to break that. Another hose right here that goes to your main air intake. You're gonna pry that off. Use a you know, pliers or needle nose to just kind of wiggle it back and forth, so left and right or forward and backwards, and then pull, and it will come right out. Then you got all these bolts around here that have these little connections as well, right? And these connections just pull up, just like that. The ones on the right are the pain points, because this guy right here has like a little black square that kind of really grips onto it, so kind of like squeeze it and pull up. Gray one is back there, and then you just go around with an 8mm to loosen all the bolts around the valve cover. Don't forget the 4 on the inside, and then a T30 for the bolts holding the ignition coils. So that's gonna do it for today's video. Do me a favor on the way out, hit that like button. Consider getting subscribed. Again, I normally do tech and crypto content, but I've been doing a lot of automotive content. If this video helps you out, I just want to know that it helped you out. That's it. That's as long as we can do that. If we can help one person, I'm happy. But yeah, subscribe, hit that like button on the way out. Make sure to check out some of the links in the description to where maybe I link some of the parts that I got from Rock Auto or whatever. And you all have yourself a wonderful day. Take care.